Uh, okay, so hello everybody, and let me welcome you on a second session of our Open Dice project. Today we have a very interesting guest, Dr. Jasminder Kaur Sangho. She is working as assistant professor at Chitkara University in India and also at Research and Innovation Network of Chitkara University in Punjab. And she's a PhD in computer science and engineering from Tapar Institute of Engineering and Technology. And her main research interests include machine learning, ensemble modeling, artificial intelligence, soft computing, and some other key topics. She is an active reviewer of many reputed journals such as IEEE Access, Springer International Journal of Machine Learning and Cybernetics, and she has credited to more than 15 publications in reputed SCI indexes journal and international conference. Also, she is an expert in teaching and have very rich experience in performing lectures on related topics. So let me welcome Dr. Jasminder to our stage, and I think I can pass a word to her. So we already have a cover slide. So Dr. Jasminder, please open up our meeting for today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ivan, for this wonderful introduction. So I'm honored. It's my pleasure to be here. So Dr. Deepam.
Yeah, Dr. Sandhu.
Dr. Deepam is working with me at Chitkara University, and he'll be helping me throughout the session. So, sir, shall we start?
Yeah, we should, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, our discussion, our topic of talk is machine learning for solving real world problems. In the very first session, in the very first day, we'll be covering the introduction to the machine learning. And then tomorrow, we'll be covering the application areas of machine learning in detail. Okay. So, the popular buzzwords we people use nowadays, you must have explored the IEEE website also. There are certain very popular buzzwords we use. Those are artificial intelligence, data analytics, data mining, machine learning, and deep learning. So basically AI, the growth of AI started somewhere in 1950s. So what AI basically involves the use of computers to mimic the human intelligence. Earlier, we used to follow the regular programming paradigm. In regular programming, we used to have predefined scenarios. We had to operate in those predefined scenarios. Whereas nowadays, what happens? We get more and more data, we get more and more examples. So a program can adapt to those examples. It is a flexible programming paradigm nowadays. Okay. So earlier, suppose we take an example of Microsoft Word. So Microsoft Word is a software. It has already been developed. So it is not possible to improve the software on its own. It will not learn on its own. So we cannot say that Microsoft Word is a AI based software. It is not. Okay. Because there is no chance of improving Microsoft Word on its own. Fine. But if we consider a facial recognition software, as we give new input, as new number of images enter in that software, what happens? The software learns, it adapts automatically. Like we can take the example of Facebook also. What we do, once we recognize one face, that is automatically tagged in all the images we upload. So that is basically a form of AI. Okay, so what is the main purpose of AI? The main purpose of AI is to meet with all the unfamiliar situations. Okay, so artificial intelligence means behaving as the humans behave. Okay, improving through experience. Okay, improving through knowledge. That is the main crux of AI. Okay, so there are certain terms we popularly use. AI is the main umbrella term for all these terms. Whether it is data analytics, whether it is data mining, machine learning, deep learning, there are evolutional algorithms also. So basically the umbrella term or the main buzzword is artificial intelligence. Okay, so if we want to introduce artificial intelligence in just one line, we'll say that artificial intelligence mimics the human behavior, okay, and it automatically adapts in case of unfamiliar situations also. It has the ability to learn, right? Now coming to the second buzzword, data analytics. So data analytics, there are two terms, data analytics and data mining. Data analytics is the main umbrella term for data mining. Okay. Now what this data analytics means is it is the process of examining the data set. Okay. We will examine the data set, we will understand the trend of the data set, and we will draw meaningful conclusion from the information. All right. Understand the data set, we'll find the trends in the data set, and we will draw meaningful conclusion from the information they contain. Okay, when we say data mining, our main focus is only on data. Fine. And when we say data analytics, we are more focused on the trends in the data as well as the conclusion coming from the data. All right. So there are main four types of data analytics. First is descriptive data analytics, diagnostic analytics, predictive analytics, and prescriptive analytics. As you can understand, descriptive means describing something or summarizing something. Okay, so descriptive means actually what happened. We are describing an existing data that comes in the descriptive analytics. Diagnostic analytics means explain why it happened. If we are drawing a conclusion from a data, why that conclusion is coming, why it happened. Okay? Or what you can say is we'll focus on the past performance to determine what happened and why it happened. That is diagnostic. Right? Then we have predictive analytics. Now, predictive analytics means to predict the future events. In diagnostic analytics, what we had the past data. Okay, so in predictive analytics, what we will do based upon that past data, we will predict what is going to happen in the near future. If we have weather data conditions for one week, we can predict how would be the weather on the very next day. Okay, that comes in the predictive analytics. Okay, then last we have prescriptive analytics. Prescriptive means you have predicted the future, you have the past data, and now you are in a position to give a final conclusion based upon that. Okay, or you can recommend something based on that. Fine. So data analytics can be broadly classified into four categories: descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive. So what is more important over here is we'll understand the data, we'll find the trends in the data, and we will draw the conclusion from that data. Right? Dr. Deepam, my voice is clear?
Yes, yes, Dr. Susminder, it's very audible. Thank you.
Yeah, everything is perfect.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, now data analytics, this acts as an umbrella term for data mining. When we say data mining is a process of extracting knowledge from large volumes of data. Okay, data mining will more focus on the data. Okay, so that we can extract meaningful information from the data. Right. So both your artificial intelligence and your machine learning will benefit from data mining because the main core is data. The key term is data. Okay. And in artificial intelligence also, we learn from the data. In machine learning also, we learn from the previous experiences. Fine. So data mining, in case of data mining, the core term will be data. The more we'll be focused on the data. Now, there are two type of techniques in data mining. One is predictive, one is descriptive. Just have a look at this data analytics. We have the very first descriptive type of thing here, and we have the predictive type of thing here. Okay. So what we people are lacking? We people are lacking the conclusion in this part. All right. We always confuse these two terms, data analytics and data mining. These two terms are confused. Okay. So what we are lacking in this is the prescriptive part. We don't have any conclusion in this. In data mining, we just work on the data, we operate on the data. Right. And now in case of data mining, what is there? We will give future predictions, and we will be able to summarize and visualize our data. Now that visualization or summarization can be in form of graphs, bar charts, box plot, that can be in form of graphs. Okay. And in case of predictive analysis, what we will do, we will give future predictions based upon the data we have. All right. Now, next we have the difference between data mining and data analytics. So as I already told you, data analytics is an umbrella term, right? And data mining basically works on the data. So the very first point in data analytics is everything we do in data analytics, we try to come to a conclusion in that. Okay, we'll examine the data set, and we'll withdraw the patterns, we'll get the patterns, we'll analyze the data, and we'll form a conclusion in data analytics. And in case of data mining, what will happen? We'll have the data and we'll simply work on the data, and we will form a descriptive analysis, or you can say a predictive analysis. All right. Now, in data analytics, basically, because what we people are doing, we are coming to a conclusion. Okay, so coming to a conclusion means we'll form a hypothesis. We'll take an assumption from the data. We'll process the data. We'll make an assumption from the data. And in the end, we'll conclude whether that assumption is true or false. Whenever your hypothesis is involved, it is data analytics. All right. So ultimately, in the end, either your hypothesis, your assumption for the data will be accepted or it will be rejected. In case of data mining, what we have the data patterns and we have the trends in the data. Okay. I'll give you a little introduction to all these things. Now, in case of descriptive analysis, we have clustering. Now, this term clustering basically means to collect or to group the similar data. Okay. Now, clustering is done basically what you will do, the elements or the data values with the similar properties, you will cluster them or group them together. So you will have some predefined properties of that data. Okay, so clustering is a form of descriptive analysis. Then summarization. Based upon that cluster, you will have a summary that these are the few properties this particular cluster will contain. Okay, so you can summarize your data well and you can present your data well. If these data are related to each other, I can present it in a single graph. Okay, so you can summarize your data in a much better way. Then comes the association rules. Association rules means, suppose I'll give you an example. There are two persons, they went to a shop. One person purchases bread and he purchases jam along with the bread. Okay, second person goes to the shop, he purchases eggs with the bread. So there is a close association. Whenever a person will go to market, he along with the bread, either he will purchase the jam or he will purchase the eggs. Okay, those are association rules. That means you are understanding the data, right? You are preparing the rules, you are understanding the data, and there's a chain in these activities. These are related activities, so we can say there is a sequence discovery. If a person is doing this task, he'll also do this task. Okay, so this is how the descriptive analysis work in data mining. Then we'll come to the predictive analysis. In case of predictive analysis, there are few techniques. We'll discuss it in the end also. Regression and classification. Okay, regression means if you are predicting something and it has continuous values, that is a problem of regression. Classification means if you can classify the elements in two or more categories, you have finite number of categories, that is classification. Classification, we have two types of classification: binary classification and multi-class classification. In binary classification, you simply have two categories. Either it is true or it is false. Suppose somebody has sent you a mail, either it is a spam or it is a non-spam mail. Okay, that is binary classification, when we have only two possible outcomes. When there are more than two outcomes, then it is multi-class classification problem. Okay, then we have time series analysis. In this, we can analyze our data based upon a fixed time span. Suppose we want to analyze the weather conditions and we want to check the condition for the past 1 week. Okay, so we have a fixed time span, that is time series analysis. Then prediction is obviously when you are predicting something, the future events, future occurrence you are predicting. Okay, that is predictive analysis. Okay, so data mining can be categorized in predictive and descriptive analysis. Fine. So now what we can say, whenever we are talking about data analytics, we are explaining the data, we are explaining why it happened, why we are clustering the things, why we are clubbing the things, why we are grouping something, and plus we can forecast the future events, and we can also give a conclusive remark. You might have heard the term business analytics. Whenever you are doing business, whenever you are into business, so what you need, you finally need a conclusion. Okay, this is my conclusive statement. If I am going to invest in this particular stock, I'll get benefit from it. So that is a conclusive statement. So that is data analytics, or you can say business analytics, when you have a conclusion. When you are simply playing with the data, that is data mining. Okay, so both these terms are very closely related with our AI and ML. So in data analytics, we can have small data also, we can have large data also, we can have average amount of data also, and we can apply data analytics and we can give a conclusion. All right, but when it comes to data mining, you people are working on the data itself. Okay, so you need to have voluminous amount of data. I think somebody, Shilpi, please can you mute yourself? Yeah, thank you. So in case of data mining, our main focus is on data. Okay, so we generally prefer large amount of data, and that too the data must be structured. But in case of data analytics, if you are providing raw data, unstructured data also, we can draw meaningful insight and we can give you a conclusion. Right. Now, data analytics is a very broader term. As you can see, it is a broader term as compared to data mining. So obviously, this broader term can be used in computer science, it can be used in mathematics, statistics, and in AI machine learning, obviously. Okay. But data mining, mainly it is dealing with the data. So that means it will cover the machine learning field, it will cover the statistics, and it will cover the databases. Okay. And in data analytics, I told you we'll draw a conclusion. You can see this actionable insight. That means a perfect conclusion we'll draw from the data. Okay. And if we have made any assumption on the data, we have to prove that assumption is true or false. Okay. That's the role of hypothesis. You must have heard it in mathematics also. The term hypothesis testing. We assume something and then we check whether it is true or false. All right. And in data mining, again, our focus is on data. The focus is on the trend of the data. It is growing, it is decreasing. What is the main trend of the data? Okay. If we are providing a conclusion, it is data analytics. If we are making hypothesis, it is data analytics. And if we are simply playing with the data, it is data mining. Okay. Am I able to clear this?
Yes, Dr. Srinder, it's fine.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Deepan. Then the next term we have is machine learning. So first of all, I'll give you the very basic definition of machine learning. What is machine learning? It is a field of study, okay, that gives the computer the ability to be programmed without being explicitly taught. Okay, we don't need to explicitly program the computer system. The computer system will automatically learn from the data. That is machine learning. In traditional programming, what we used to do, we used to provide the data. Suppose we have to add two numbers. We are inputting the data, we are giving the data, and we'll write a program and it will provide the output. That was the traditional programming paradigm. Whereas in machine learning, what happens? We have the data and we have the output. Okay, the machine will learn itself. It will prepare the rules. It will prepare the program to work on the data. So we don't need to explicitly write a program. Okay, it gives the ability to the computer system to learn itself without being explicitly programmed. Okay, in traditional programming, we used to write the program. In case of machine learning, we'll give the input, we'll give the output. Computer will automatically learn. Okay, computer will automatically learn the pattern. Right, I'll give you an example on this. See, this is an example of activity recognition. Now what happens? We have fixed a value 4. If the speed of a person is less than 4, that means the person is walking. Simple code, right? And if the speed exceed 4, the same if else block, that means the person is running. So we have provided two conditions, right? Now in the third condition, if the speed exceeds 12, so we can say the person is running, else the person is biking. So this is a simple way to write a program. Now what if a new condition comes? The fourth condition comes. Okay, we will not be able to recognize this activity. We will not be able to convert it into conventional program. because our system is only programmed for the first 3 tasks. We have set the limit as walking, running, and biking. Okay, we have predefined 3 tasks. So in case of conventional programming, our computer will not be able to learn. It is only programmed for 3 tasks. If a 4th activity happens, our computer will stop. Okay, but now if this is the case in case of machine learning, now what will happen if a new activity comes? In the very first case, a label has been assigned, the person is walking. Okay, second case, the activity is already recognized and labeled as running. In the third case, it is labeled as biking. Now, if a new activity comes into place, right? Machine learning is basically, we don't need to program it. Okay, it will automatically learn. So automatically the label is generated golfing. All right, now you can see there is no flexibility in the conventional program, but in case of machine learning, we have that flexibility. If a new event happens, we can easily label it. All right. Now, coming to the main definition of machine learning. Okay, this is the actual definition of machine learning, and it consists of 3 things. E stands for experience. Okay, then we have T for a task and P for performance. All right. Now, what this definition says, a computer program is set to learn from experience. That means you have past data and you have labeled that past data. In case of this example, you have labeled this data. Now, any new activity come, you can generate a new label, or what you can do, you can pick any label from these 4. All right. So a computer program is set to learn from experience with respect to some task. Okay. And performance measure P if its performance at task T improves with experience. Now, what this definition says, we have a task T. Okay. And we are able to perform the task in say 1 hour. You have to type 10 pages. A person efficiency is he can type the those 10 pages. The performance is he can type that 10 pages in 1 hour. Okay. If he is a new person, if he has just joined the organization and he is given this typing task, he will be able to type 10 pages in 1 hour. If instead of that person, we bring into somebody who is experienced, who is already doing this typing task, so obviously the performance will improve. Instead of 1 hour, that person can take 30 minutes. So, but basically what machine learning does is it improves the performance of your system for any task T, okay, based upon the experience E. So machine learning uses the very popular concept of E, T, and P. All right. Machine learning means improve the system performance for any task with experience. Now, this is one example. Suppose we have a pair of numbers. It is 2, 4, 3, 6, and 4, 8. Okay, this is the past data we have. The past data, we'll call the past data as experience. Okay, now what happens, we have the task of predicting the second number in this case. What will be the second number? If we don't have this experience E, okay, then we'll take much more time to predict this second number. But if we have the existing database, if we have already have the examples, to predict this second number will be very easy. Okay, so that means the performance of the system will increase. Now performance will, it depends upon system to system, what kind of improvement you need. You must have heard about the time space complexity, na? Okay, whether you need to do the task in lesser time, okay, whether you want to save the space. So it perfectly depends upon application to application, what type of performance you require. Right. So in all the cases, if we have the experience E, the performance P will increase for any task T, right? Okay. Now we have, after the buzzword machine learning, the next term is deep learning. So basically, deep learning is a subset of machine learning. All right. Deep learning is subset of machine learning. What we did in machine learning, we had past experience. Based upon that past experience, we tried to improve the performance of the system for a particular task T. Okay. So what we required was, we required this past experience. All right. And based upon this experience, we predicted the performance. Now, in this case, in case of deep learning, what happens? This is again somewhat related to machine learning only. This is the advanced form of machine learning, you can say. In deep learning, we can automate the process of predicting any event. Okay. Suppose now we are taking an example of machine which has to recognize animals. Okay. Now in this case, in this diagram, automatically the input data has been fed, it has been processed, and the output has been generated. But in this case, we had the input data. In this experience, what was the input data? In this E, the input data was 2, 3, and 4. Whenever the input we gave 2, the output was 4. Whenever the input we gave as 3, the output was 6. Whenever the input we gave as 4, the output was 8. So we had that input output pair. Okay. So based upon this input output data, the task was performed. In this case, this task is performed automatically. And deep learning gives much more accurate result as compared to the machine learning. All right. Now, in this case, what will happen? The machine will automatically recognize the facial expression, the facial features it will recognize, and it will automatically classify the animal. Okay. And in case of machine learning, we used to give the features as manually we used to give them as input. But in case of deep learning, the process is automated. Okay, you just have to give the input data or the images. It automatically finds out the features and it classifies the image. Right. In machine learning, we were giving manual data. We were giving manual features. The input output pair were given manually. In this case, the process is automated. Okay, that is the main advantage of using deep learning. And if you see, the accuracy in case of deep learning is comparatively more better as compared to machine learning algorithms. Now we have a comparison of machine learning and deep learning methods. In machine learning, we can use small amount of data also for prediction. But generally, when you are using deep learning, we need voluminous data for prediction. Okay. And now in case of hardware, in machine learning, it does not require very large computational power. But in case of deep learning, very large computational power is required. Okay. And in case of features, in machine learning, we give the features manually, whereas in deep learning, it automatically learns from the data you provide. Okay. And the learning, in case of machine learning, the basically learning approach is that you provide the data is divided, the machine learns from the data, and there's an testing and validation procedure after that. In case of deep learning, it is like end-to-end basis. You give the data and you get the output. Okay, so learning is combined into a single phase. The neural network is used in this case, and mostly neural network learns by itself. And in terms of execution power, machine learning takes comparatively less time to execute as compared to deep learning, right? And in case of the output of machine learning, we generally have numerical values, and in case of deep learning, we can, as I already told you, we use images also. So it could be a score, it could be sound, it can work good with text images also. Okay, so this is basically the nowadays used version of machine learning, right? To automate the process of machine learning, the manually in machine learning we used to manually take up the features. In deep learning, it is automatic process of taking up the features. Now the classification of machine learning models. We have 4 types of machine learning models. First is supervised learning, second is unsupervised learning, then semi-supervised learning, and last one is reinforcement learning. Okay, we have 4 types of machine learning models. So the main terminology we will be using in these models are the main terminology we will be using in these models are, first we have label data. As I already told you, in machine learning what we have,
Dr. Jasminder,
yes sir,
can you please press F5 for full slide show?
wait a minute.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So the basic terminology, the very first term we have label data. What does label data means? I told you कि we provide the data in machine learning. We are providing this 2 and we are also providing this solution 4. Okay, 2 is our input data, 4 is the output data. In the same way, we are providing 3 and we are also providing 6. 4 and then 8, then 5 and then it would be 10. So what we are providing both the input and the output pair. Fine. So what does label data means? We have proper labels for the data. We have given names to all the features existing in the data. Okay, and we know that if we provide this input, this should be the output value. All right, label data means you are not giving any random data. You are providing, you have given the complete row consisting of the input data and the output data. When we will be working with the implementation part, we'll use one more thing for that, which is formula. What is output label? Output label is the label which has to be predicted. I'll again go to the same example. Now in this case, 5 is the input label. What is to be predicted? The output is to be predicted. The question mark is the output to be predicted. Okay. So we'll have a tilde sign. We'll have the output which will be dependent on the input features. 5 will be the input feature, all right, and the output will be dependent on 10 will be dependent on 5. I'll give you one more example. The health condition of any person, that could be dependent on certain features: weight, age, locality, the place where he or she is staying. Okay, so now because we have written tilde sign health before the tilde sign, that means it is the output feature, and weight, age and locality are the input features. Okay, now health is dependent on, health can only be predicted based upon weight, age and locality. Now if we see this in Excel format, generally we use the Excel format or the CSV format. Any data set we will download, whether we are downloading it from an online repository, generally it is in CSV format or Excel format. Okay, now that data set will contain 4 features. It will be weight, age, locality and health. Okay, now as I told you, in machine learning we have the past experience. So we'll have values, we'll have example. It could be 100 record, it could be 1000 record for all these 4 features. Okay, we'll have a proper Excel file. Okay, now what features we'll have? We'll have the weight, we'll have the age, okay, and we'll have the locality here. Okay, and what will be the output feature? Output feature will be health. Okay,
Dr. Jismati, we are
yeah.
just getting PPT only.
you are getting PPT only?
Yes.
Wait a minute. Now this is fine.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay. So now in this case, what we will have? We'll have 4 features. As I already told you, we have the output label as health and we have the input features as weight, age and locality. So now in our data set, we'll have values for all these features. Locality, maybe it could be Punjab, any place. And health, suppose we are keeping 1 if a person is fit, and we are keeping the value 0 if a person is not fit. Okay, so in this case, you will have the output label also. So we will have many more examples like this. Okay, we'll have the entire data set and we'll have many more examples. And based upon these examples, we can train our model. Okay. Now this will be our output feature. We can call it output feature. Okay, or we can call it the target feature, and these 3 will act as the input features. These are the input features. This is input, weight, age and locality. These 3 will act as the input feature. Okay, so we will have many examples. It could be 100 record, it could be 200 record. So now what we'll do, we'll have to predict the health condition based upon these 3 input features. Okay, now if you have trained your machine learning model, you have a machine learning model and you have trained this model based upon all these experience. This you can call as experience. Based on this experience, you have trained your machine learning model. Now, if I give you weight of a person and I give you age of a person, right? And I give you locality of the person, right? So what you have to do, you have to predict this outcome. And this outcome will be based upon this previous training data. All right. Now, if a new entry comes, you can predict the output or you can predict the target variable based on the 3 input features and the provided past experience. Okay. So, whenever we are implementing this part, there will be a formula. You will have to tell which feature you want to predict and you will have to make it as a target or the output feature. And what will be the input features, based upon what features you will be predicting the output, that you have to specify in the input features. Okay, now this is not, I'm not adding these 3 features. This is not addition. This is merely for representation, that on the right hand side of the tiled sign is your output label or your target, and on the on the left hand side is your output, and on the right hand side are your input features. All right, and based upon the input features, we will be predicting the output. I'm not taking up in this in much more details because we will be implementing, we'll have hands-on experience with this, you'll come to know. Okay, so the terminology we have used here is label data. Label data means we should know what are the input features, we should know what is the output feature and what we need to predict. And then based on the past experience, we'll train our model to predict the output. Right. Then there's one more term, classification. As I've already told you, classification means a simple binary or a multi-class classification. If the outcome is, if the target value is 2 values, it is true or false, it is 0 or 1, spam or non-spam, it is binary class classification. If the categories are more than 2, it is multi-class classification. Okay. Then we have regression. If the values we need to predict are continuous values, that means that is a problem of regression. I'll modify this slightly. See, if now in this case, what is there? The target is either 0 or 1. That means this is a binary class classification. Okay. If I create one more target, not sure. Okay, now we have 3 values in this target variable. So this is a multi-class classification problem. What we are predicting, the target has 3 values. Okay, either your output can be 0 or it can be 1 or it can be 2. Okay, this is multi-class classification problem. Now, what does regression mean? If this is some decimal values, 1.2, if this is a continuous form of values, okay, if we have to make the prediction on continuous type of values, that is a regression problem. Okay, if your output is continuous, it falls in the category of regression problem. If it is discrete, it falls in the category of classification problem. Okay, what you have to predict, if your output is continuous, it is in decimal values, it is regression. Okay, then the machine learning models you will be using will be of regression only. And if it falls in the problem of classification, then the machine learning models you will be using, those are specialized classification. And there are certain models which can work in both the cases. Those are called dual mode models. Okay, fine. Now coming to the main types of machine learning, first is supervised learning. In case of supervised learning, we have labeled data. Like this is an example of supervised learning. We have the data and we have provided appropriate labels to the data. Okay, this is supervised learning. Like suppose I am guiding 2 or 3 PhD scholars. Okay, I am the supervisor. I can tell this scholar works hard and this scholar, I'm sorry to take him. All right. So this is called supervised learning. I as a supervisor can label those people. I can label those scholars. Okay, supervised learning means when you have labeled data, when you have features, when you have values, and those are properly labeled. Okay, and we have proper tagged output for every input. In this case also, now in case of every output, if I consider this one output, we have proper record for this output. Okay, means we have all the input feature for this particular output. Okay, so we have tagged inputs for a particular output, that is supervised learning. Now we have the input data, all right, and we have the output data. Now what is our role in this case? Okay, we have all the inputs, we have all the output. So what is our role? That means what we need to do, we have to find out how these input and output maps, how this input and output maps. That means we have to find a rule which maps this input and output. Okay, or I can say I have to derive a rule which maps this input and output. We have the input, we have the output. Okay, if we are able to find this rule, okay, now if we are given new set of input data, we can easily tell what the output will be based upon this rule. Okay, we can use this rule and we can easily predict the output. Okay, so the main task for the main purpose of supervised learning is to find the mapping between the input and the output data. You should know the rule, how this particular output has been derived. Okay, supervised learning, as the name suggests, it is working under a supervisor. You have all the input and you have all the tagged outputs also, and the correct output also. Now what will happen in future, what will be the outcome, will depend upon the rule generated by that model. Okay, now this is one diagram to make you understand the concept of supervised learning. Now in case of C, we have label data. Label data means how many labels we have? We have 3 labels. If the sides of the shape are 3, that means it is a triangle. If it has 4 sides, it is a square. If it has 6 sides, it is a hexagon. So well-defined rule has been formed. Now we have this label data. We have this data. Okay. Now we have trained our model. Right. Now what we are doing, we are giving 2 new shapes. We are giving 2 new things to the model. And we are telling predict in which category this form. Now this has 4 sides. The very first shape has 4 sides, so automatically it will be labeled as square. This has 3 sides, so automatically it will be labeled as a triangle. Okay, so what we did here, we had the input and we had the labels. All right, and what we did, we formed a rule, and the rule was we'll check the number of sides and we'll decide the shape. That was the simple rule. Okay, now whenever a new data arrives, the new data will be called the test data. Okay, so whenever a new data arrives here, what will happen, based upon the number of sides it has, we will judge whether it is a square or a triangle. Okay, now see, there is one drawback I can say. If I give test data as a circle, if I provide the input as a circle, because I don't have any label, I have no rule for that, so my supervised learning in this case will fail. Okay, that is why we use the concept of unsupervised learning. Right. So that is the drawback of supervised learning, you can say. If we give a shape and we have no past experience of that, so we will not be able, our model will not be trained, we will not be able to predict anything. Right. So the main aim of supervised learning is it will only predict the things, only predict based upon the past experience, based on the previous data it has saved. Right. So these are some of the very popular supervised learning methods. If you have to start implementing these models, firstly, I would suggest the easiest model is linear regression model. Start with linear regression. Okay. And then you can use decision tree, naive Bayes, support vector machine, and neural network. I'll be covering these in the hands-on experience. I'll cover all these models. I'll tell you how to write the code for these. Okay. Now, what is the advantage of supervised learning? Based on past experience, it can give you the desired output. Okay. And we have exact idea of the classes. Now, in this case, we know there are only 3 classes. We either have hexagon, or we have a square, or we have a triangle. We just have 3 classes. Okay. So we have exact idea about the classes. Right. Now, supervised learning, if you say in real world, it is used in case of spam filtering also, whether the mail is a spam or it is not a spam, if you have to predict a patient has cancer or not. Okay. So these are some of the cases you can use supervised learning. Right. Now the disadvantages, very first disadvantage is I am telling you that supervised learning, we need to give the input data, we need to have the output data. Okay. So that means we need to have a proper data set. Okay. And I'll tell you one more thing in this. Suppose this is the data. How will you check that your machine learning model is a success or not? I'll try to cover that thing here only. What we do is we take these 3 example. Okay. We say these 3 are our training data. Right. And now what we do, we train our machine learning model on these 3 data. Okay. Now we have to check, we have an ML model. I'll say M1 is the ML model trained on these 3 data. Okay. Now we need to check whether our model is a success or not, whether it is able to predict the outcome properly or not. What we'll do, we'll make this data as testing data. Right. Now for this is our testing data. This one is our testing data. Now we know the actual output for this data should be 0. Right. Now in this testing data, what we do, we pick up these input data and we apply the model. Right. Now here, if the predicted value after applying the model comes out to be 0, that means the machine learning model we have developed, this M1 model we have developed using these 3 cases is a success. If this comes out to be an incorrect value, that means actual value is 0, but the output our model is giving is 1. So that means our model is a failure. Okay. So what happens in case of supervised learning? We have the entire data set. We divide it into training and testing data set. Why we divide it into testing data set? So that we are able to compare that our model is giving correct prediction or not. Okay. We have the actual value, but we only use these 3 features and our model to predict the outcome. Okay, in that way, we can compare these two values and we can tell whether the machine learning model is a success or not. Okay, so supervised learning will predict the correct output if the test data cannot predict the correct output if the test data is different from the training data set. Okay, if this and this value is different, that means it is not a success. Plus, because we are having all the data, we are having the input labels and we have having the output data also, that means training will take a lot of time. All right, and plus the biggest disadvantage is we have predefined labels. If for instance I introduce a circle in the test data, this supervised learning technique will be a complete failure. Okay, if I don't have the past experience, I cannot supervise and I cannot give correct judgment in case of supervised learning. Okay, so we need to have enough knowledge about the classes. We need to have enough knowledge about the input and the output data to give correct output or correct prediction. Any doubts so far, Dr. Deepa?
Yeah, Dr. Jasminder, there is
Can we,
one query from Mr. Vivek.
okay,
Can I ask?
sure.
Yeah, he's asking that which programming language and software is best for understanding machine learning?
Okay, a very good question. See, you can use Python, you can use MATLAB, and if you want to if you are in the very beginning, I will recommend you use R programming. Okay, we'll have that hands-on experience on that also, and I'll explain you the line-by-line code of R. Okay, now it also depends upon, see, if you have images, if you have voluminous data, then Python is preferred. Right, but the programming language which you can use is, you can start off with R programming. It has a drop down menu also. It has a drag and drop type of tool also called RETL. Okay, we can install R in two forms. One is R for Windows, that has a library called RETL. So that is simply a drag and drop type of thing, and you can implement 2-3 basic models in that. But just you can implement 2-3 models. Those are fixed models in that. Those are inbuilt. Okay, and apart from that, if you are using R Studio, then you can implement any machine learning model. So it is R or Python. Dr. Deepam, you would like to add something?
No, Dr. Jasminder, it's fine. I think Mr. Vivek, you are clear now, right? These are the best tools which are using nowadays for in the implementation of machine learning. I think you will be more familiar with all these softwares when we go along with this course. Okay, Dr. Sundar, you please continue.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll give you an hands-on experience on that R tool.
Okay, Dr. Jasminder, Dr. Ruchi is asking that how good is MATLAB for machine learning?
MATLAB is also good, but I would personally recommend, if you are a beginner, you start with R, then you can switch to Python or MATLAB. Both are good. Python or R is recommended. I'll say both are good, but to start with, go with R.
Okay, Dr. Jasminder, can we use R for image classification?
Yes, it can be used. We need to extract. Obviously, we need to extract the features and we can use it.
Okay, thank you. You please continue with your session. Thank you.
Dr. Van, can we take a break for 5 minutes, if that's feasible?
Yes, sure. So I'll just pause the recording.
Okay. Dr. Deepam, just 5 minutes, then we'll continue.
Okay, sure.
Right? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Python is bit faster as compared to MATLAB. And there is one more thing, you can use the Google Colab for, if you want GPU support, you can use it. So what I will say is, in case of Python and MATLAB, you should go with Python. Okay, but no one single tool is like preferable. If you want to learn, you can explore rest of the tools also. You can learn R, you can learn Python, and later on you can use MATLAB also. Okay, all tools are equally good, but in case of processing speed, Python is a bit faster. You're welcome. So okay, done with supervised learning. Now we will start with unsupervised learning. So in case of supervised learning, as I told you, there is a supervisor. You have the input and you have the output labels as well. You have all the data. But in case of unsupervised learning, we have the input data and we don't have any corresponding output data, and we don't have labeled data as well. Labels are not there. Simply we have the data. Okay. In case of supervised learning, our main goal was to find the function which maps the input to the output. And in case of unsupervised learning, our main goal is to find the underlying structure of the data. Okay. For instance, what we can do is we simply have the data and we can group similar data together. That is one way of performing unsupervised learning. Okay, so we have the regression and classification in supervised learning because we have labeled data. For performing the regression and classification, we need labeled data. Okay, and in case of unsupervised learning, because we don't have labeled data, we cannot perform that regression and classification. So I'll show you this with the help of an example. What happens in case of unsupervised learning? We have unlabeled data. We simply have the input data in the raw form. Now we have certain images of dogs and cats. Okay. Interpretation means we will understand the similarities between these images. Okay, a dog will be like another dog, a cat will be like another cat. So what we do, we figure out those features, we figure out the similarities between these images or between the input data. Okay, and we form an algorithm based upon the similarities. An algorithm is, or you can say a machine learning model is trained, right? And what we do in case of output, we group the similar things together based upon those features. Okay, dogs are in one group, cats are in another group. So in case of unsupervised learning, we simply have the data, we'll play with the data and we'll figure out the features of the data. Okay, and the moment we understand the features, we will be able to group the data in different groups. Okay, so do we have a question or what?
Okay, Dr. Ismindra, I think we will take at last.
Okay, done. Yeah. In case of unsupervised learning, we simply group the data based upon the features. Okay, we don't have any input label, we don't have any output label, we simply have the data. Right. So now unsupervised learning falls in two categories. Right. The first category is clustering. As I told you, clustering means grouping of objects, grouping of data, and based upon the similarities. Now, this is a very raw example. We have fishes and we have birds. Though I don't think a bird are looking like birds here, but still we have two things. We have fishes and we have the birds. Okay, now the features of both these two entities will be totally entirely different. Okay, and one entity will have no similarity with the second entity. Okay, so what we did, we simply formed two clusters, one for representing the bird, the other for representing the fish. Right, so we have two clusters and there is no similarity between the properties of both these clusters. So clustering means grouping the objects under a similar label, or grouping the similar objects in one cluster. Okay, now the second type of unsupervised learning we have is association. A very popular example is the market basket analysis. Okay, again the same thing I told you in the very beginning. There are two persons, one is going to a shop and purchasing a bread and purchasing eggs with that. Other one is going to the shop and purchasing bread and purchasing jam with that. So clearly it shows association. Okay, so market basket analysis means we will keep these three things in the same shelf. We'll try to keep these three things more closer to each other. A person who picks up the bread can easily pick up the egg and can easily pick up the jam either. Okay, this is a marketing strategy. And this is known as market basket analysis. So association means finding the relationship. Okay, which items will come together, which items will not come together. Right? So clustering means grouping similar things. Association means finding the relationships. Right? Then next, I'll give you one more example. Just have a look at these 8 transactions. Okay, these are 8 different people, different customers who went to the market and who purchased these things. Okay, now this is called, we can take it in the market basket analysis only. Now just have a look what happens. 4 people have bought apples, and along with the apple, majority, see, 3 people have bought beer, though there is no combination. Chalo, they have bought beer with that. Okay, now see the next 4 transaction. 4 people have bought milk and they have also bought beer with that. Okay, so what this means, we can keep these things, the similar purchasing pattern we can analyze, and we can keep these things, we can try to keep these things in the same shelf. Okay, we can keep the apples in one shelf, and within the adjacent shelf we can keep these beer bottles. Okay, and now if you analyze the pattern, there are only 2 people who brought this non-veg, something non-veg. Okay, so that means the least likely thing to be purchased is this, especially in the times of COVID. Right? So in case of unsupervised learning, we either cluster the things or we try to evaluate or analyze the association between the things. Fine. So what are the advantages of unsupervised learning? Now supervised learning was used for predefined tasks. Now everything was defined, input, output, everything was defined. But in case of unsupervised learning, it can be used for more complex tasks. We don't need to label everything. It can be used for more complex tasks. Okay, we can find the associations, we can cluster the similar things. For more complex things, we can use this unsupervised learning. So what now is the disadvantage of this? Because the things are not properly labeled. Okay, so the output is not known in advance. And as compared to supervised learning, when you have a supervisor, while anybody is doing his PhD, if he has a supervisor in the same university, okay, he can get more help. If the supervisor is in some other university, it is not possible to get that much help. Okay, so obviously with the supervisor, things are more easy, and without the supervisor, things are a bit difficult. Okay, these are some of the popular techniques used for unsupervised learning: K-means clustering, hierarchical clustering, principal component analysis, independent component analysis, and a priori algorithm. This example falls in the category of a priori. It is generally used for analyzing the market basket analysis. Okay, and we will be taking up this example in more detail while we will be performing this implementation. Right. Now coming to the next topic, semi-supervised learning. You have well understood supervised learning and unsupervised learning. Now semi-supervised combines both the techniques, the supervised learning and the unsupervised learning. Means it will have some amount of labeled data and it will have some amount of unlabeled data. Okay. See, now if you see in this diagram, we have these blue squares and these green one. These are labeled samples. Means this is, we have the input labels also, we have the output labels also. So these are labeled data. And we, in case of unsupervised learning, these circles are unlabeled data. Okay, if we mix both the data, that is called semi-supervised learning. Right? Then next type of learning is reinforcement learning. What is reinforcement learning? We basically have an environment, fine, and we have an agent, and we have an agent who who continuously learns from the environment in an iterative manner. Means what he'll do, we'll have an agent, he'll perform certain action. Okay, if the action is good, he'll get reward. If the action is bad, he'll get penalty. Okay, so what happened, the agent will learn. Working in that particular environment, that agent will learn all the states. Okay, see, we have an environment and we have an agent who will be working in this environment. Now the action will consist of either it will be a reward or it will be a punishment. Okay, so the ideal behavior of an agent will be according to the particular environment in which that agent is present. Right. This is an example. This is, see, we have given input as an apple. Okay, and the response we are getting, it is a mango. Obviously, this is the wrong output. Fine. So what happened? The system will learn that if this is the shape, this is not a mango, this is an apple. Right. So it learns, it note down that point, and the next response will be dependent upon what learning he has gathered from the environment. Okay. Now what I said, reward and penalty. Reward and penalty can be in form of numbers also. If agent is performing a positive action, we'll give him +1. If he is performing a negative action, we'll give him 0 or we'll give him -1. In that case, automatically the system will learn from that particular dynamic environment. Right? So the most popular technique used in reinforcement learning is the Q learning technique. Okay, then we have temporal difference and deep adversarial network. Now, last we have is our machine learning workflow. Okay, the machine learning workflow consists of 5 main steps. The very first step is to gather the data. Now, data gathering. How many types of data we have? We have primary data and we have secondary data. Okay, so primary data is the one which we create, which is first hand data. Okay, and you can create this first hand data using simulations, or what you can do is, suppose we have to create a data in case of sensor network, you will deploy the sensors and you will collect the data, or that means you can have a real test bed. Either you can perform a real experiment or you can simulate the data. So the very first task is to get the data. If you want primary data, simulate it. Okay, or perform the execution on a real test bed. If you want a secondary type of data, to data, we have many data, online data repositories like the UCI repository, the Kaggle. You can download the data from there. Okay. Then the next step is to clean the data. Basically, to clean, prepare, and manipulate the data. Okay. So whatever data we collect from the real world, it contains some missing values. Okay, it is unorganized, it has noise, or you can say it has outliers. I'll give you one example. Deepam sir, my Excel sheet is visible now?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, see, suppose we have data in this form. Okay, we have these data values and one data value is 10,000. Okay, so generally what happens, this 10,000 value is an extreme value. Okay, it could be a noise also, it could be a disturbance while taking the data. Suppose you have noted down the data incorrectly, so this is generally treated as an outlier. This has the harmful effect on your machine learning model. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to clean the data, we need to remove the outliers. There's a very popular box plot for that. You can visualize your data, whatever data you have, you just prepare a box plot out of it. Okay, it will give you the minimum value, it will give you the maximum value, it will give you the average value. So you will also come to know whether your data lies in the lower half or it lies in the upper half. Okay, and also the outliers will be clearly visible in the box plot. Fine. So cleaning, preparing, and manipulating data means you will clean your data, you will delete the record which has missing values, or you will use the model which can treat missing value. There are certain machine learning models which can work efficiently even if there are missing values. For example, we have the Naive Bayes model. It can work good even if we have missing values. Okay, so that is the main task, whether you want to delete the record. See, uh, if you have merely 100 records and there are lot many missing values, if you delete the entire row, you will have very less amount of data. And if you have 10,000 records and you need to delete 100 out of it, you can do that. Okay, so now it perfectly depends upon the amount of data you have. Okay, whether you want to delete it or you want to keep it or you want to change your machine learning model, right? So what we do in this step, we simply prepare our data, right? Now when a data is prepared, we have removed the outliers, the noise, we have perfectly good data we have. Okay, what is the immediate next step? We will train the model. Okay, as I already told you, we'll train the machine learning model. We have these records, fine, and these records are divided into training data and the testing data. Okay, so for training, generally the division is 70-30. We take 70% amount of data for training purpose and we take 30% amount of data for testing purpose. Okay, that is generally the trend. We take 70-30, but in some cases it is good to notice the change when we take 80-20 and when we take 60-40. Okay, that is my observation. If you change that fixed pattern to 60-40 and 80-20, sometimes it is very interesting to note the results. Okay, but as such, the default split is 70-30. We'll take 70% of the data for the training purpose and we'll take 30% data for the testing purpose. All right. What we do in case of training, we have a machine learning model. We'll train our model based upon the training data, right? In case of testing, what we did, I've explained you earlier. I've tried to explain you this point. Why we do testing? Because in case of testing, we know that actually this should be the output, but still we take the input features and we apply the machine learning model on that, and then we notice whether the predicted value is same as the actual value or not. Okay, testing is basically done to check whether your machine learning model is working efficiently or not, whether it is giving you the correct outcome or not. Okay, so after training, the next step is testing, right? Okay, then after testing, the last step is, see, if you have performed the training testing and you are somewhat getting the accuracy of 70%, okay, so what you can do, you can try to improve the results. Okay, how can you improve the results? You can refine the results by, first of all, checking your data again, right? Or what you can do, you can try some other machine learning model. There are somewhere near 285 machine learning models. In R, there are 285 machine learning models. Okay, so you can try some other machine learning models. Or what else you can do is, there are certain tuning parameters for the models. Okay, if your model is giving 70% accuracy, you can fine tune your model. You can change those tuning parameters slightly and you can increase your result. Okay, so but what basically you do in case of improvement, you fine tune your model to get more better results. Right, so this is the machine learning workflow. Let me go through all the slides. I just want to present the crux of all these topics. Give me 5 more minutes. Okay, we have buzzwords. The very first buzzword is artificial intelligence. What artificial intelligence basically means is to mimic the human intelligence, okay, and to deal with the unfamiliar situations. You have robots nowadays, okay, so they have that power to present human-like intelligence and mimic that, right? Then we have data analytics. When we say data analytics, we say data plus the conclusions and the hypothesis, right? We examine the data set, we find the trends. If required, we propose the hypothesis and we draw information from the process. Okay, we either accept the hypothesis or we reject the hypothesis. So the main terms in data analytics are examining the data set, finding the trend, drawing conclusion, and the suggesting hypothesis. Right, when we come to data mining mainly plays around with data. It summarizes the data which comes in descriptive analysis, or it also gives you an idea of the future events which comes in predictive data mining. Right, I think this is okay. Then machine learning. In traditional programming, we used to have data, we used to prepare a program, and we used to find out the results. Okay, suppose we have two numbers, we have given the data, we have to add two numbers, we have given 10, 20. We'll take a equal to 10, b equal to 20, we'll write a program, we'll take sum equal to a plus b, and we'll print the result. Okay, that was traditional programming. Now in case of machine learning, what happens, we have 10 and 20 and we have the output 30. We have to form the logic how this output came, right? And whenever we discuss about machine learning, there is a very popular definition of machine learning which comprises of E, T, and P. P is enhanced for any task T with respect to experience E. Whenever you add experience to something, you are obviously increasing the performance of the system, right? What is deep learning? In case of machine learning, we are doing things manually. We are giving the input, we are giving the output. So everything is manual. But in case of deep learning, we simply give the input data. We have an automated process and we simply come to a conclusion. We have the output. Right. Now we have four types of machine learning model: supervised, unsupervised, semi-supervised, and reinforcement. Supervised learning means we have labeled data. Okay, we have input as well, input data, and we have the output data as well. Okay, and we have this formula type of thing. Just remember this one thing because this will come in the coding part also. The target, okay, or the output label, that is dependent upon the input feature. This is not, we are not adding all the features. We are simply telling that we need these input features to predict the output health, right? So in case of supervised learning, we have all the label training data, okay, and the outcome is perfectly dependent upon this label data. Okay, if you have another test data, if you give test data as circle, it will not be able to categorize it because it does not have any label for that. It has no past experience for that, right? What in case of unsupervised learning is basically used to cluster your data or to provide or understand the association in the data, right? We have two techniques: clustering to group similar data and to find the association. Whenever you will go through this market basket analysis problem, now you will come to know the association concept. Okay. Then we have semi-supervised learning. It consists of supervised as well as the unsupervised form of learning. Okay, some of the data is labeled and some data is not labeled at all. Okay, then we have reinforcement learning. In reinforcement learning, we have a particular environment and the agent gets the reward or the penalty based upon that environment, and the agent learns from that environment. Okay. Then in the last, we have the machine learning workflow. In this, we will collect the data, we will clean and prepare the data, we will remove the noise or the outliers. Okay, then we will divide the data set into training and testing. Machine learning model will be trained. Okay, machine learning model will be trained based upon the past experience, right? And the accuracy of the model will be checked based upon the testing data, right? And then machine learning model can be fine-tuned, it can be improved with the help of tuning parameters. So there is always a chance of improvement, right? That's all for today. Dr. Deepam, can we take up the queries now?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Jasminder. There are three queries. First is by Mr. Vivek Pandey that as a mechanical engineering, which language is better?
Dr. Deepam, you are the best person to answer this question.
Yeah, thank you. So, Mr. Vivek, actually, can you please tell me which type of problem you want to tackle? Because software basically the implementation or the use of software is depends that which type of problem you are facing and you want to I can say resolve that particular problem. Either it is uh, fault diagnostic, either it is structural equations. So which type of problem you want to tackle? Yeah, Mr. Vivek, are you getting?
Can the participants unmute themselves? Is it possible, Dr. Van?
Actually, it depends if they're panelists or attendees. Let me check for Mr. Vivek. Actually, I don't see him in the list.
Actually, I think
Yes.
he has left this session.
Yeah, looks like he left.
Yeah, so no problem. Next question is from Saurabh Shastri that reinforcement learning behaves like supervised learning. Is it true, Dr. Disminder?
Reinforcement learning, basically when we use the term reinforcement learning, okay, this is intelligent action taken in a particular environment. Okay, so this is a bit different from supervised learning.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Shiveta Bisht that please
And
suggest.
I would, sorry, Dr. Deepam, I would like to add one more thing. See, in case of supervised learning, we have the input and we have the output also. We know the answers. But in case of reinforcement, the agent has to decide what it has to perform. Okay, so we don't know the answers.
Yeah, good. So next question is, please suggest some of the best software for structural equation modeling. Can I handle, Dr. Jasminder?
Sure, sir.
Yeah. So, Ms. Shweta, actually, as far as structural equation modeling is concerned, it is related to mechanical and civil engineering basically. So, as per my experience, Lizeral is a statistical software package which is used in structural equation modeling for manifest and latent variables. And if I'm right, there is one Lavan R package. It is one of the R package which is used for structural equation modeling. And of course, you can also use MATLAB for designing the modeling and simulating the structural equations, because there are a lot of dynamic variables that you have to consider during the modeling of the structures, maybe beams, trusses, etc. So I suggest you to use Lizeral intentionally as a statistical software package for structural equation, and Lavan as one of the R package you can use, and MATLAB you can also use.
And Dr. Deepam, I think we can use SPSS also, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, Dr. Smith, we can use, but as far as structural equations are concerned, they basically need so much dynamic variables that is changes.
Yeah, you cannot handle that much complexity with the SPSS.
Yeah. I think, Shweta, you are clear now. Okay. So, Dr. Jasminder, Vivek is back. So he's asking that mathematical modeling of engine. Okay. So, Mr. Vivek, then again, I suggest you that MATLAB will be better if you want to do the mathematical modeling of an engine. And in MATLAB also, there is one simulation. So if you perform your model with simulation part of MATLAB, it will give you a very interesting and wonderful results. Dr. Jasmina, is one question from Mr. Shankar, which is best for large image data set classification, R or Python?
Python.
Okay, Python.
Python. Undoubtedly, that's a one-word answer, Python.
Okay, thank you. So,
For beginners, I will highly recommend R. Okay, because you can use the drag down menu for that also, and you can use it through coding also. For a beginner, R is the best one. But if you are on the advanced stage, go with Python. And
okay.
Dr. Deepam is gonna suggest MATLAB. That is also one point.
Yeah. So, I think, Mr. Vivek, are you clear with your query? Okay. Dr. Ivan, can you please conclude this session now?
Yes. I also would like to join all the people who was saying thank you to Dr. Sandhu. Very interesting presentation. I really enjoyed it. Very informative. So I learned some new stuff about. I'm not an expert in machine learning at all, so I just know some basic stuff. So I was, yeah, I was able to also learn a new thing, and I think that we will continue the next days. Evolve together our knowledge in this area. So here is a question in the chat about what will be the tomorrow's topic. So Dr. Sandhu, maybe can you give a couple words about what will be tomorrow for us?
See, tomorrow we'll be covering real world applications. Okay. And we'll be covering those applications in different domains. Right. It will be related to mechanical domain also, and it will be related to computer science domain also. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. So yes, I think that if we don't have any questions right now here, we are done for today. I'll try to do my best to prepare and publish today's video of the presentation. And also, if Dr. Sandhu will not mind, I'll also publish online the slides using SlideShare or some similar service. If you're okay with
Dr.
this,
Van, sure. No problem.
yes, please send me the PowerPoint slides so I'll be able to actually add them to the system.
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay, so thank you so much, everybody who participated, and special thanks to Dr. Deepam Goyal for taking care of the questions which we got in different chats here. So I think that's it for today. So thank you so much, and we'll welcome you tomorrow for the continuation of this machine learning journey.
Sure. Thank you so much, participants. Thank you so much, Dr. Van. This was a wonderful experience. And we'll take up the mathematical problems tomorrow. We'll do that. No problem. Okay. Thank you so much, participants. From me and Dr. Deepam, we enjoyed answering your questions. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good day and evening. Bye.
Same to you.
Bye, sir. Bye.